For 76 days, one man drifted alone across the Atlantic Ocean. No ship, no radio, no rescue. Only a small, inflatable life raft surrounded by endless water. Every sunrise meant another day without food. Every sunset brought another night with sharks swimming beneath him. He had no idea if anyone was searching for him. Most people believed no one could survive that long at sea. But they were wrong. His name was Stephen Callahan, and this is one of the greatest survival stories ever recorded. It all began in January 1982. Stephen was 30 years old and had spent years preparing for the voyage of his dreams. He built and modified his own small sailing yacht. He studied navigation, weather, and survival at sea. He knew the Atlantic could be dangerous, but he believed careful preparation could overcome almost anything. His journey began in the Canary Islands. The weather was calm. The wind was perfect. The ocean looked peaceful. For several days, everything went exactly as planned. Stephen sailed alone, enjoying the freedom he had dreamed about for years. Then, late one night, everything changed. A violent crash shook the entire yacht. Stephen was thrown awake. At first, he thought he had hit a whale. Then he heard the sound every sailor fears. Water. Cold seawater was rushing into the cabin. The hull had been torn open. His yacht was sinking. He had only minutes to survive. He grabbed the emergency supplies, launched his small inflatable life raft, and climbed aboard. Within moments, the boat he had built with his own hands disappeared beneath the Atlantic Ocean. Stephen watched it vanish into the darkness. Now he was completely alone. His fight for survival had just begun. Ice-cold seawater poured into the cabin faster every second. Stephen knew there was no way to save the yacht. Years of work, everything he owned, everything he had built with his own hands, was about to disappear beneath the Atlantic Ocean. There was no time to think. He grabbed the emergency bag, activated the inflatable life raft, and climbed onto the deck as the yacht rolled violently in the dark waves. The wind was growing stronger. The sea was no longer calm. Every second mattered. Stephen rushed back and forth, throwing whatever emergency supplies he could reach into the raft. Food, fresh water, navigation equipment, fishing gear, repair tools. He wanted to save more. But there wasn't enough time. The yacht was sinking lower with every passing moment. Within minutes, the inflatable raft floated beside the dying boat. Stephen climbed aboard and pulled the emergency supplies after him. Only seconds later, the yacht slipped beneath the surface. The Atlantic swallowed it forever. Stephen stared into the darkness in complete silence. The boat he had spent years designing and building had vanished forever. Now there was nothing around him except water. No lights, no ships, no land. Only endless ocean in every direction. As the first light of dawn appeared, Stephen looked around for the first time. His tiny orange life raft looked unbelievably small against the endless Atlantic. The reality finally hit him. Nobody knew exactly where he was. Nobody was coming today. From this moment on, every decision would determine whether he lived or died. He wasn't simply waiting to be rescued anymore. He had to survive. Alone. On a raft barely larger than a mattress. In the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And he had absolutely no idea that this nightmare would last 76 days. When the sun rose, Stephen saw the Atlantic clearly for the first time. The ocean stretched to the horizon in every direction. His tiny orange life raft looked almost invisible against the endless water. For the first time, he understood how difficult it would be for anyone to find him. He opened his emergency supplies and carefully checked everything he had managed to save. A few packets of food, several containers of fresh water, fishing equipment, navigation tools, a repair kit. It wasn't much. Every item would have to last as long as possible. Stephen immediately began rationing his food and water. He allowed himself only the smallest amounts each day. He had no idea how long he would be drifting. Hours passed in complete silence. Sometimes flying fish landed near the raft. Seabirds appeared high above the ocean before disappearing again. They were the only signs of life in the endless Atlantic. Then, late in the afternoon, Stephen saw something on the horizon. A ship. His heart began racing. He grabbed his signaling equipment, waved his arms, and did everything he could to be seen. For several long minutes, hope returned. But the ship never changed course. Slowly, it disappeared beyond the horizon. Stephen lowered his arms. The silence returned. That moment changed everything. He finally understood the terrible truth. No one was coming to save him. If he wanted to see land again, he would have to survive long enough to find it. Days passed without rescue. The Atlantic showed no mercy. The blazing sun burned Stephen's skin from sunrise until sunset. His lips became dry and cracked. Every drop of fresh water became priceless. He measured every sip with extreme care, knowing one mistake could cost him his life. Soon the food supplies also began to disappear. Stephen understood that surviving on emergency rations alone would be impossible. He had to learn how to live from the ocean itself. Using the small fishing equipment from his survival kit, he spent hours trying to catch his first fish. Again and again, he failed. The ocean seemed full of life, yet nothing came easily. Finally, after days of trying, he caught his first fish. It wasn't much, but to Stephen, it meant hope. For the first time since losing his yacht, he realized the ocean could keep him alive instead of killing him. Then another problem appeared. His life raft was slowly losing air. At first, the leak was almost impossible to notice. But every morning, the raft felt softer than the day before. Stephen searched every inch of the rubber surface until he finally found a tiny puncture. If the raft failed, there would be nothing left between him and the Atlantic Ocean. From that moment, protecting the raft became just as important as finding food and water. His survival no longer depended on luck. It depended on every decision he made. By now, Stephen had spent more than 2 months alone at sea. His body had become dangerously thin. His skin was burned by the sun. Every movement required effort. But he refused to give up. Each morning he looked toward the horizon, hoping to see land. Most days there was nothing, only the endless Atlantic Ocean. Then, on the 76th day, something finally changed. Stephen noticed fishing boats in the distance. At first, he thought he was imagining them, but they grew larger. He gathered the last of his strength and waved for help. This time, someone saw him. The fisherman turned toward the tiny orange life raft. For the first time in 76 days, another human being stood only a few meters away. Stephen had survived. After 76 days alone on the Atlantic Ocean, he was finally rescued. Doctors were amazed that he was still alive. He had lost a great deal of weight, but his determination had kept him alive. Years later, Stephen wrote a book called Adrift, 76 Days Lost at Sea. His incredible story inspired millions of people around the world. It remains one of the greatest survival stories ever recorded. Because sometimes, survival is not about strength. It is about refusing to give up.